The United States is on the brink of an energy catastrophe. Venezuela has just delivered a crushing blow to Trump's administration, shutting down fuel exports to the West. With Gulf Coast refineries in crisis and fuel shortages reaching dangerous levels, Washington is scrambling for solutions. But it may already be too late. What does this mean for the U.S. economy? Will Trump be forced to negotiate with Nicolas Maduro? And how will this impact global energy markets? Stay with us as we break down this shocking development and reveal why experts say this could be one of the biggest energy crises in American history. The oil contracts with Venezuela have been closed, and the refineries of the Western Gulf are in crisis. Venezuela delivers a blow to Trump, making recovery impossible. Nicolas Maduro halts fuel exports to the West in response to the sanctions imposed by the Republican administration, putting Washington's sustainability at risk in terms of hydrocarbons. The national crisis in the United States worsens, and Trump is seeing all possible trade doors closing on him. Nicolas Maduro has just dealt another severe blow to U.S. policy by shutting down fuel commercialization to the West and halting any business in that sector. Washington suffers a decline in its main Gulf refineries, increasing instability in the country. Even many supporters of the new administration have raised their voices in outrage over the extreme fuel and hydrocarbon shortages, demanding explanations from the New York magnate. This has sparked major disagreements with the national Republican government. The interruptions and positions taken by Caracas, preventing the arrival of fuel to the U.S. Gulf, have led to the search for lower-quality alternatives, threatening the country's energy stability. At the same time, it closes the possibility of generating other derivatives in the West using raw materials exported from South America, which are essential for producing other products. This situation is driving Trump to the brink of madness. Likewise, Nicolas Maduro responds forcefully to imperialist impositions, making no concessions in resisting Western attempts to intervene in Venezuela and take control of its natural resources. As a result, the multinational PDVSA will not enter into any new contracts with the White House. Trump's pressure had a boomerang effect. Caracas possesses one of the largest proven oil reserves on Earth, and beyond its energy wealth, its quality and quantity are undeniable strengths. Many nations trade its derivatives and even crude oil itself. In fact, Venezuela leads OPEC and secured new agreements following Maduro's inauguration in January 2025. Kepler has reported that suspending oil exports to the U.S. has placed the imperialist nation in a difficult position. This is because the refineries on the U.S. Gulf Coast process hundreds of thousands of barrels of Venezuelan crude oil daily. Additionally, exports have surpassed historical levels due to rising business demand and increased production in the West. In this regard, Caracas exported record volumes in December 2024, reaching a six-year high of nearly 300,000 barrels per day, 150,000 more than in the same month of 2023. Undoubtedly, Washington cannot survive without Venezuelan fuel. History repeats itself. In 2017, during Donald Trump's first term, the situation became complicated after business ties were severed with PDVSA and the Ministry of Energy and Mines of the South American nation. Both economies suffered setbacks during that period, but the crisis deepened in the neoliberal nation of the North. In fact, Maduro has already figured Trump out. Venezuela is a key fuel supplier, and in the U.S. Gulf region, there are major refineries like Valero St. Charles, Chevron Pascagoula, and Valero Port Arthur, which process large volumes of heavy, acidic crude. As a result, this hydrocarbon is crucial for U.S. energy supremacy. Venezuela's decision has destabilized the neoliberal powerhouse of the North, particularly in the Gulf, where a shortage of Mexican fuel further complicates the situation. Moreover, demand is growing, leaving Trump with no choice but to find new suppliers or bow to Nicolas Maduro. Kepler predicts that the Gulf would face a severe shortage of between 200,000 and 500,000 barrels per day for U.S. refineries. Meanwhile, the quality of oil from Colombia or Ecuador could only partially substitute these volumes, but it will not replace the large quantities provided by Venezuela. This has led to an existential crisis, and the internal turmoil is beginning to suffocate the White House. If Venezuelan crude flows to the region are interrupted, these refineries will have to turn to lower quality and less reliable suppliers. Without a doubt, Washington is experiencing one of its most complex energy crises. The U.S. is now forced to seek favorable relations with Maduro, despite historically tense relations between the Venezuelan president and the Republican Party. They have no alternative but to plead with the Bolivarian leader for more fuel supplies in exchange for lifting sanctions. Maduro makes it clear that he will not be swayed by Donald Trump's hardline policies and emotional blackmail across the continent. Trump will have to ease his stance, or else an energy crisis looms just around the corner. Even Trump is being forced to negotiate. He is aware that maintaining the U.S. energy ecosystem without Venezuelan oil would be an unsustainable challenge. He cautiously acknowledges that imports from Venezuela have continued due to special license agreements secured by major corporations like Chevron. However, Venezuela's extraordinary energy potential remains largely untapped, something the Republican magnate fully recognizes. Meanwhile, the U.S. Gulf is running out of fuel, and demand is outpacing the Republican administration's efforts to secure alternative suppliers. As a result, the suspension of Venezuelan imports delivers a major blow to the economic stability of the United States and the overall well-being of the Western Hemisphere. Maduro now holds all the leverage to push Washington to the brink. If the White House cooperates, it can preserve its Western refineries. Otherwise, they may collapse without the raw materials required for their operations. This does not even take into account the potential political and governmental upheaval in the Republican administration, which could lead to one of the most intense hydrocarbon crises in history. Although Trump attempted to impose his authority, he will ultimately have to concede to Maduro. On the other hand, suspending licenses would result in a loss of 500,000 barrels per day of U.S. naphtha flows used for blending, where Chevron is the main importer and Caracas serves as the primary exporter. This means Trump is left with no choice but to resume relations with Venezuela under mutually beneficial commercial conditions. If he refuses, he will cede energy dominance to Russia, China, and Iran. Therefore, Trump has no alternative but to kneel before Maduro, his only and best option at this moment. As the United States faces an escalating fuel crisis, the consequences of Venezuela's sudden export ban are becoming more evident. With refineries along the Gulf Coast struggling to secure alternative sources, fuel shortages are already impacting industries, transportation, and everyday consumers. Experts warn that if Washington fails to find a viable solution soon, energy prices could skyrocket, triggering inflation and further economic instability. Meanwhile, political tensions are reaching a boiling point. The Trump administration is under immense pressure to respond, but negotiating with Nicolas Maduro could mean a major geopolitical shift, one that could redefine U.S. Venezuela relations and reshape energy markets worldwide. Stay informed and don't miss out on the latest updates. If you found this report valuable, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with others who need to know the truth about this unfolding crisis. What do you think will happen next? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and let's discuss how this could reshape global energy dynamics.